Welcome. Today we're doing a deep dive into, well, a really complex relationship, the future of India and Pakistan.
Indeed. We've sifted through quite a bit. Analysis, current trends, a dose of history, too.
And our mission really is to pull out the key takeaways for you. Think of it as getting you quickly up to speed on where things might be heading.
Exactly. We can't predict, obviously, but we can look at the plausible scenarios. We'll touch on politics, conflict potential, economics, people-to-people stuff, global roles, even climate.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Political relations first. Short term, it sounds like, well, more the same. Status quo.
That's the general consensus, yes.
Yeah.
Limited dialogue, high rhetoric, the tense border situation we're used to.
But is there any potential for change there? Anything bubbling under?
Well, interestingly, yes. Some analysis suggests a gradual, maybe pragmatic shift could happen, driven perhaps by economic needs,
Ah.
or maybe international nudges. It opens the door potentially to talks where things seem quite stuck right now.
And leadership. I mean, if there's a change at the top in either country, that could be huge, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's a massive variable.
Huh.
New leadership might see an opportunity, like we've sometimes seen historically,
Hmm.
or, a more hardline leader could ratchet tensions right back up. It's a real swing factor.
Right. Shifting to peace and conflict. It seems, thankfully, full-scale war is pretty unlikely because of the nuclear deterrent.
That's the strong feeling, yes. The nuclear aspect really does cap the escalation ladder in a way.
But that doesn't mean no conflict.
No, definitely not. What seems more likely, according to the analysis, are things like localized skirmishes, maybe border incidents,
Hmm.
or increasingly cyber warfare. That's a growing domain for this rivalry.
And if a major crisis does flare up, like 2019.
The pattern suggests pretty strong international intervention to de-escalate. Think U.S., maybe China stepping in.
Mm,
They have vested interests in stability there.
okay. Let's switch gears to the economy. Big contrast here, isn't there? India's growth trajectory looks, well, steep.
Very steep, potentially top 3 globally by 2040, some projections say. Pakistan, on the other hand, faces more immediate economic headwinds.
Debt, stability issues.
Right. But it's not all gloom. There's potential there too, especially if reforms take hold and investments, perhaps linked to CPEC, start paying off.
And trade. What about just basic trade between them?
That's a fascinating point that comes up repeatedly. If trade could somehow resume meaningfully, the mutual economic benefits could be significant.
Hmm.
Some analysts argue it might even build bridges, creating interdependence that could, soften the political edges over time.
Interesting thought. Economic necessity trumping political rivalry, perhaps? What about the people, the cultural links?
Yeah, that's a crucial layer. Despite all the top-level hostility, those cultural bonds, music, films, language, definitely cricket, they're still there.
A kind of soft diplomacy foundation.
Exactly. And you also have digital connections now, social media, plus the diaspora communities in other countries.
Hmm.
They can sometimes help reduce the public animosity, build understanding.
Okay, now broadening out their global roles. India seems poised for a bigger seat at the table internationally.
That seems the likely trajectory.
Yeah.
Growing economy, tech sector, diplomatic efforts. India's influence looks set to increase.
And Pakistan.
Pakistan might focus more on its position within the Muslim world, strengthening ties with China, the Gulf countries. It's a different strategic orientation.
But both have to navigate the same shifting world, right?
Yeah,
U.S.-China competition, climate change.
absolutely. Those big global pressures affect both, forcing adaptation whether they coordinate or not.
Which brings us neatly to climate and water. Shared rivers. That sounds like a potential flashpoint.
It certainly could be. Water scarcity is worsening, and relying on the same river systems, well, it's a classic conflict multiplier.
But is there an alternative view? Could it force cooperation?
That's the other side of the coin. The sheer necessity of managing shared water resources in the face of climate change might actually compel them to cooperate. Some see it as a potential area for sort of practical, necessary dialogue.
So, pulling all these threads together, what's the most likely overall future scenario painted by the analysis? Not best case, not worst case, but most probable.
The consensus seems to lean towards, well, not a straight line, more like a slow, uneven path. Continued rivalry, yes, but mixed with periods of reluctant coexistence.
So, pockets of cooperation, maybe?
Maybe. Occasional breakthroughs driven by specific needs like maybe water or a particular economic pressure point.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, it looks like a complex mix, not a neat resolution towards peace, or a slide into constant crisis.
Right. So it seems the future here is this intricate dance between that deep-seated rivalry and the potential, maybe even the necessity for some level of pragmatic cooperation, all shaped by politics at home, economic realities, and those big global shifts.
Which really sets up a final thought for you, the listener. When you weigh all these factors we've discussed, political will, economic drivers, people-to-people links, environmental pressures, which single one do you think will ultimately be the most decisive in shaping where this relationship goes long term, and why? Something to definitely mull over.